For nearly 75 years, the lynching of Robert Marshall remained Utah's dark secret, but some never forgot it. Marshall was lynched in Carbon County back in 1925. He allegedly shot a law enforcement officer.
Well, while in custody, a mob overpowered deputies and lynched Marshall. For every crime, there's a story in The Truth Matters. Here's ABC4's senior crime and punishment correspondent Marcos Ortiz with part 3 of tonight's Justice Files.
In 1998, a Salt Lake City lawyer wanted a day of reconciliation on behalf of Robert Marshall. He was hanged in 1925 for a lawman's murder. Marshall never got a trial. Now a warning, some of these images are quite graphic.
It's hard to look at those pictures. It's hard to imagine that in the western United States of America, in 1925, we were still willing to lynch a person.
It did happen just outside of Price. Today, a skeleton of what's believed to be the hanging tree still stands, a reminder of what happened 90 years ago. On June 18, 1925, a mob placed a rope around Robert Marshall's neck and hanged him for allegedly shooting J. Milton Burns, Castlegate's town marshal. Former Utah Governor J. Bracken Lee, who's from Price, was 27 years old at the time and watched.
Another man put the rope around his neck, and then somebody hollered, "Pull him up slow." And while this fellow was sitting there, they pulled this Negro up slowly, and the fellow said, "Let him hang there a while." And they tied the rope to a fence post and let him suffer. Then somebody says, "Shoot him." "No, let him suffer."
11 were arrested, but charges were dropped when witnesses refused to talk.
And it was described oftentimes as this wall of silence, or the community really closing in and protecting its own. This was not uncommon.
For years, Marshall's body lay in an unmarked grave in Price.
It was an atrocity, and it always bothered Dad.
Craddock Matthew Gilmore was a well-known Salt Lake civil rights attorney. He championed for the black community.
Dad was deeply angered by the lack of justice. That was his lifelong theme and his concern over the injustices done to blacks.
The elder Gilmore grew up in Price. At 16 years old, he learned there was about to be a lynching in his town.
And they saw a man buying rope, and they said, "What's going on?" And the man said, "There's going to be a lynching." He said, "There's going to be a necktie party."
Gilmore never forgot about the lynching.
Dad always believed that the town of Price, Carbon County, needed to come together, acknowledge the wrong that had been done, and say that this is not going to happen ever again.
In 1997, Gilmore was inspired by then-President Bill Clinton's message on race relations. He met with Reverend France Davis of Salt Lake Calvary Baptist Church, and the Day of Reconciliation was born.
The original grave site was just a plain laying of grass, no indication at all about who was buried there, or not even that anybody was buried there.
On April 4th, 1998, the 30th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, a headstone bearing the name of Robert Marshall was unveiled at the Price Cemetery.
We've not come to this community to put upon it any more of a burden, but rather to see if we might help to lift and to lighten the load.
Later that night, justice for Robert Marshall was celebrated at a local Catholic school.
The only way that a community can cope with a thing like that is to publicly admit and acknowledge and confess that things were done that ought not to have been done.
But not everyone in Price embraced the Day of Reconciliation. The local newspaper questioned why history needed to be replayed. In an editorial, the paper claimed most believed Marshall was guilty. The lynching horrified people, but it wasn't racially motivated. There was no need to reconcile. It went on to say, all of us have ancestors who were wronged. Are we expected as descendants to demand restitution? Reverend Davis remembered seeing bomb-sniffing dogs and police on rooftops that day.
There had been threats from the local community against myself and the marker, the man who was making the marker.
For Craddock Gilmore, It was a bittersweet day.
Dad was very satisfied that the job had been done. He was disappointed that not everybody in Price felt the same way.
It's been 22 years since that day of reconciliation. Most don't know anything about the lynching, but those who do say Carbon County learned its lesson.
We've really been taught by our family, our fathers and mothers, how to accept people, you know, and that's what I really feel as a community. We've grown.
There's some uncertainty where the real hanging tree is. Some say it's this tree stump on Highway 6 just outside of Price. Others say this dying cottonwood tree a short distance away is where Marshall took his last breath. What is known? Nearly a century ago, the last lynching in the West took place south of Price.
It's a sad commentary about our history, but it also needs to be remembered. You have to realize that 2 lives were snuffed out horribly in that instance. And it never should have happened. It never should have happened the way that it did.
J. Milton Burns seemed forgotten in all this. His father was also a lawman killed in the line of duty. Attempts to reach his family were unsuccessful. As for Robert Marshall, his family may never have even known that he was lynched. No one has ever found them. For the Justice Files, Marcus Ortiz, ABC 4 News.